Bubier, and I work for Maine Woods Pellet Company in Athens, Maine, just over here a few miles. And I was invited to this expo because we have the pellet mill right nearby, and it fits in with the theme of the Energy Expo. And because of the rising costs of energy, all of us are looking around to find ways that we can save money. We have to buy electricity, and we have to buy fuel for our cars and trucks. And those of us that live in this part of the world, we have to also have an added expense, more than some parts of the country, or most of the country, that we have to heat our homes. And it usually is with costly fuels. So how are people in Maine getting by? How are we surviving? And as a group, Maine people are pretty resourceful. Usually we can find a way to beat the high energy prices. A lot of folks are using wood heat. Some are burning coal. Up in the county, they burn anything up there. They burn corn, oats, whatever they have on their farms, they burn. So people are finding ways to cut the energy cost, and some have found wood pellets. Now, wood pellets are another way of heating homes, and you might say, well, why would anybody want to switch to wood pellets? Well, there's a few reasons. Wood pellets are dried down to about 5%. That means they take pretty much all the moisture out. And because of that, you don't have any creosote issues, and they burn really, really clean. So they're a really good source for heat. Another reason why people turn to wood pellets is because, as you know, if you burn wood, you have to get up sometimes to a cold house. With wood pellets, the hoppers are usually designed to carry over 24, 48 hours, and in some cases, hooked up to a bin where they can run until they have to be cleaned. And so it's really a good way of keeping a good even heat throughout the home. Another reason why people are switching from wood pellets to oil is it's about half the price of oil right now. And when we find that the pellet price is creeping up to anywhere near what oil prices are, people tend to turn up the thermostat and not burn pellets. So the pellet manufacturing facilities are aware of that. So we try to keep quite a distance away from oil, because we know that makes it attractive for people to buy either pellet stoves or pellet furnaces or something that will burn wood pellets. Mostly, our facility produces about 95,000 tons of pellets, and about 80% of our pellets right now are sold in 40-pound bags. But as time goes on, we see that shifting. We also sell about 20% of our product as bulk pellets. Right now, most of the users of bulk pellets are larger facilities like schools, hospitals. One of our biggest customers is Jackson Lab in Bar Harbor. It's a government facility that is a research facility. They raise mice there, and it's our biggest customer. We deliver to those people in our big truck that holds about 25 to 30 tons. Usually goes in big silos that are at least 40 tons. So we've started a new adventure by jumping into what we call the residential bulk market. And that's why, if you want to get a chance to see our truck out front, it's a brand new truck. We haven't made a delivery yet. We're scheduled to have our first delivery next week. But that truck is designed to deliver to 3 to 15-ton silos. And that is set up almost like an oil truck, in that it will meter out by the pound and tell you exactly how many pounds you bought. So it's really, really high tech. The way we deliver to the schools is we weigh our truck when we leave the mill. When we come back, we weigh our truck. So that's kind of the old-fashioned way. And that's why this way here, it allows us to deliver to several customers. We can go to a home, deliver so many pounds, go to another home, deliver so many pounds, and hopefully make our route until the truck is empty, and then go back to the mill. So that's the theory of it. And there are 3 other trucks in Maine that deliver bulk, and we pretty much have the state covered. And there's 2 more that I'm not sure of their names, but I think there's 6 that do home deliveries with trucks like ours. So if people are putting in a furnace that they want to have a bulk system, then there'll be somebody that can deliver pellets to them. So that's the good news. we kind of filled in the last hole with this particular purchase. It's a very expensive adventure, but we think that's where the future is going. In fact, I went to a heating, I think it was called Heating the Northeast seminar, and it was a industry meeting a few years ago. A lady from Austria was there, and she was talking about her country and how they, for years, they've been using pellets because oil is out of the question. They don't have a choice because the oil prices are just not feasible. It'd be like burning their money, so they're not going to do that. So they burn wood pellets there, but I had my plastic bags at my booth, and she said to me something I'll never forget. She said, "Oh, you silly Americans with your plastic bags. In Europe, we don't do that. That's silly. We do it with these trucks." And so we're finally getting there, and there are a lot of installers. I don't have anything to do with installing these units, but it's becoming more and more popular for residential homeowners to switch out their oil furnaces with a system that is high-tech and can take the job over and heat their homes with wood pellets. They're very efficient machines. They've got, some companies have them set up so that if the furnace goes out, it'll text the person that owns it and tell them, "Hey, furnace shut down." Or it'll tell them, they can go online and look up and see how it's running and follow its progress if they want to know. So if they're gone on vacation and they want to check to see how the furnace is running back home, they just go in and it'll tell them everything they want to know. So it's some really high-tech machinery. You don't have to worry about the insurance companies. They're all on board with these new units, and they're promoting them. I shouldn't say promoting them, but they're endorsing them. They're not going to charge you extra because these are high-quality machines and put in by quality people. I'm not an installer, but I have met quite a few, and my business is to get to know them so that when they want to give a quote to a homeowner, I can give them a price, what it's going to cost that person to get the pellets to their home. We go by mileage and so on. So that's where my connection comes in with the people that install these furnaces. See if I covered everything. There's one thing that is kind of exciting. They did a pilot project of installing pellet boilers in the city of Berlin, New Hampshire, and it was very successful. And in Farmington and Wilton, Maine, the town, I live in Farmington, but in Farmington, Wilton area, the Western Maine Community Action folks are setting up a similar system. They have some grant money, which they are going to initially start out with 20 homes and put in some these boilers, and it's going to be like a catalyst. Once a community starts putting them in, then they tell their friends and their neighbors, and they, I can trust this unit, and they can. And the people that are putting in these units are going to be like guinea pigs in a way. They'll be allowing people to come in to see how they're doing and see how they like them, and that'll generate more interest. And as that grows, more interest, and as people see how much they're saving and how much the units cost, then this will mushroom, and we will get more and more people using pellets. So I do have some time to answer questions, so if anybody would like to ask some questions, I'd love to try to answer them.
What's the minimum amount you deliver in that bulk?
I believe if you get set up on a route, they can top off you if they're in the area. I know I've talked to several people that already have bulk systems, and that seems to be what the delivery people like to do. They like to, if they're in an area, they'll call up a customer in the area and say, "Hey, I've got so much on the truck, can you take a look?" And they'll just top them off or whatever. And where it's being meted out by the pound, it can be delivered in small increments.
I thought you started off saying something about 3 tons, and I know the biggest hopper I can get from my unit is 1.5 tons.
Well, I didn't realize they made them that small, but as far as filling up a 1.5 ton unit in your house, if you're on a delivery route, I can't see why that couldn't be worked in.
It's actually an exterior unit, but yeah.
So, you know, I was working with boiler people and they all were telling me 3 to 10 tons, so I didn't realize they made them that tiny.
Well, that's the last time I looked. I don't have one,
Yeah,
just because nobody around here was delivering bulk, so I just.
right.
Yeah,
Well, we have the truck now and we're not too far away. What town do you live in?
we're right here in Madison.
Madison. See, you're within the 50 miles,
Yeah.
so you get a good rate. And
What would that be? What would that be?
right now, for the 50-mile rate is $2.29 with the new truck.
A ton, 229 a ton.
To deliver, yeah. And that was based on delivering to 3-ton to 10-ton silos. I'm not sure if there'd be an extra fee for a smaller one, but I'd look into getting a little bigger one if you could, you know. But that's the rates for this next heating season. And then it would go, if you get over 50 miles, and there's extra trucking rates.
What's the price per ton for 40-pound bag pellets?
Well, I work on the wholesale end. I just sell to people that resell them, so I'm not sure. You have to shop around. There's a
Wasn't
number
it
of different.
229, wasn't it last year?
It's less than $2.29.
No, it was, for the main wood pellets, it was probably anywhere from 205 to 215, I think.
Last season.
It-
They'll
it has
probably,
been, I think.
they'll probably be going up a little because the wholesale price went up a little bit, and trucking rates went up a little bit, so I'll be looking at maybe another $10 increase retail in than what you paid last year. So, any other thoughts?
Could you tell me anything about the difference between soft and hardwood pellets and blended? That
Okay, pellets come in many different ways. There's companies that make a 100% softwood pellet, there's companies that make 100% hardwood pellets, and then there's companies that make a blend. Some companies do both. We make a blended pellet and a softwood pellet. We make a blended pellet because we use the softwoods to blend with the hardwoods. It's sort of like baking a cake. The woods marry, will go good together, and the softwood tends to have the lignins and the pitches in it that will bind those pellets together, which we need to hold them together. So we do a 65-35 blend, and that's what our popular or our signature brand is. Because of popular demand, we seasonally make a small amount of softwood. We make about 5,000 tons of softwood every year, usually in the summer because it's so hard to dry. We have to pick our moment to do it. Our production goes down and our fixed costs go up, so we charge more for that. But the advantages of softwood are that it has less ash, a little more BTUs per pound, and it's something that a lot of people look for. So to compete with Canadian softwood pellets, we make a batch for those in our area, so we don't lose that softwood market share. But as far as the BTUs, money per pound, the blended pellet is a really good choice, and it gives you more BTU per dollar buy, and that's the signature brand. We make about 90,000 tons of that. So, any other thoughts?
how would that compare to burning oil?
Well, oil is expensive, and our pellets, a ton of pellets is equal to 120 gallons of fuel oil. So if you're buying pellets for around $2.25 a ton, let's say, that's 120 gallons of fuel oil at $225. So you're talking a real substantial savings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's popular about pellets is if you switch over, or at least get a pellet stove, you can cut back on your heating costs substantially. And if you have a wood appliance that you're buying, you can pay that back in just several heating seasons. If you save $1,000, $1,500 a year in oil, you can pay that appliance back relatively in a short period of time. So it's a win-win when you look at the payback. So that's the advantage. And also some people like the heat, the wood heat. It's a warmer heat, they say. But any other thoughts?
So storing them outside, can you store them inside too, or how's it best to store them?
Okay, storing pellets is really a topic that I really work hard with my customers and also the people that sell my pellets, because the biggest problem with wood pellets is getting them wet. And most of the problems I deal with, from a customer service standpoint, are pellets that have been wet. People call up and they're not burning right, or they say they have to sift them, or they say they have to do this or do that. They're usually signs of the pellet got damaged by water. So, I try to get folks, if they're buying pellets, to make sure that if they buy a pallet of pellets, to make sure the cover is really, nice, no holes in it. If you go to a place that stacks them, make sure you buy the top pallet, don't buy the bottom pallet. And just some tips like that. Insist on buying the ones that you pick out, because some of the people that sell pellets have yet to really be focused on proper storage and handling. Then once you get them home, make sure that you put them in a dry place. If you leave them in the pallet with the cover on it, I recommend getting them in a shed at least. You don't have to have side cover, just something with a roof. If you uncover them, get them somewhere they can't get water anywhere near them, because they have little holes in the sides of the bags, and they're just like a vacuum, they'll suck in water. And each one of those holes will suck in about a handful of water, make about a handful of dust in each bag. And that's the biggest thing. The ones that get a lot of water will puff up, and those are easy to find. It's the ones that get a little water damage that usually cause most of the problems. When people see one that's all puffed up, they know enough not to use it. The ones that are, we have a little bit of water damage are the ones that tend to cause people trouble. And then the first thing they do is blame the pellet mill, thinking we didn't make a good product. And I tell people a good quality pellet that gets wet doesn't burn as good as a poor quality pellet kept dry. So my competitor, if he keeps it dry, he's gonna win. So I work really hard with my suppliers to keep them dry. And then I'll have customers, they'll have trouble, and they'll go and they'll store them out on their porch, water gets in on them. Or they'll store them in poor places. It's just important to keep them dry. Any other thoughts?
Softwood versus a blend of the hardwood pellets. Pellets usually more expensive. Softwood's gonna burn hotter and faster. Overall, which do you get more heat out of? Which is gonna last you longer? I mean, does it make more sense to buy softwood pellets even though they cost you a little more? Because you're gonna get more heat out of them overall? Or?
Well, for example, in our softwood pellets, they're about 300 BTUs per pound hotter than our blend, which isn't a whole lot. I recommend people to buy the blend if they're looking to save money, because overall that's a better deal. But blended pellets run about 8,300 BTUs per pound, and our softwood pellet ran about 8,600 BTUs per pound. So, as far as burning faster, or the way pellet stoves work is they let a little bit in every time, so you can turn the dial up or turn down. They're hotter, they're just hotter. They're a little hotter, but the bulk density is the same. It's different than when you burn cordwood. People used to burn hardwood, and hardwood naturally grows denser. So that's why when you buy a cord of wood, it weighs anywhere from 48 to 5,200 pounds per cord. You buy a softwood, it goes anywhere from 41 to 4,500 pounds per cord, depending on species. So it's a less dense species, but when you make pellets, you're taking sawdust from both, and you're blending it together, or you're making it like 100% softwood. We're basically making the bulk density with machinery. So we're hitting 40 pounds per square foot is what we're shooting for. So it doesn't matter whether it's hardwood or softwood or a mixture, we're hitting that bulk density. So you're getting the same pounds a pound, it's the same density whether it's hardwood or softwood or a blend. So that's why we're controlling it with machinery rather than nature. Nature grows the hardwoods tighter, and that's why they're heavier. But we break that barrier down when we hammer mill it, and we make it into a pellet. So it doesn't really matter what species, as long as hits that 40 pounds per square foot density, bulk density is what we're looking for. So
Well, I guess my question is, I talked to Pellets several years ago at the fair, and at that time, I think I was getting pellets from the Athens mill at about 200 or 205 a ton. And he was selling softwood pellets at I think 280 a ton. And I asked him a simple question, am I gonna get that much more heat for another $75 a ton? Does it make sense to buy softwood tip pellets?
I wouldn't.
He guaranteed me it would, but I couldn't see how it was gonna do that.
Was it somebody that was selling my pellets?
They were at the fair, I don't know, I stopped at the booth at the fair, and they were selling,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they misled you a little bit. I would've told you to buy the blend. We make the softwood because there's people that the stove shops promote it. They promote a Canadian softwood. They sell it for about $300 a ton, so, you know, you can buy a Maine softwood for $250 a ton or $260, depending on where you buy it. And so, we're just competing with that market.
Yeah.
And so we're making a local thing to compete with what other people are promoting. So that's the whole bottom line. And when you go to a store, let's say, you go into to buy something, you may have 5 different kinds of bread. You know, some people may like Country Kitchen, some may like what are some of the other ones, Nissen. You know, so it's just it's a personal choice. And because it's my job to try to help people to pick me, but people do like to use softwood, so that's why.
Why is softwood more expensive?
Well, that's a really good question. Thanks for asking that. That's an awesome question because it basically boils down to drying time. It's about 65% moisture.
Yeah.
Whereas if with our hardwoods, they're more like 40 to 45.
Okay.
And even with the 35% we put in, we kind of choke a little bit on drying it. But when we go to 100% softwood, it just takes longer to dry it. So there's the bottleneck. So all our fixed costs stay the same. So we'll run about 14 tons an hour with the blend, and it knocks us back to 8 when we're doing the softwood. And the guys at the mill, every time we make a batch of softwood, you see the guys in control room. They have to watch the gauges real close, and they have to make sure things don't go wrong, and that's really hard to make. So that's why they have to charge more.
Okay.
In fact, the owner tells me that he makes more money on the blend at the lower price than he does on the softwood at the price he charges. So, but that was a really good question. Thank you so much for asking that. Any other thoughts? And I guess this is gonna go out online and that'll be good.
Anyone who missed it here can check it out there.
How does the wood compare to like corn?
Corn?
Yeah.
Corn, I'm not really familiar. I don't know if I'm qualified to ask that question. There was a farmer over in Farmington that was selling corn for fuel, but what has turned around now, because of, they're making a lot of, out west, they're making a lot of corn into biofuels. There's been a little bit of a shortage for animal feed, so the price of corn per bushel has gone to the point where they can't afford to burn it anymore. It's worth more. So that's another person that I know in our area that grew corn for fuel, and they're selling it to a Blue Seal feed place now because, you know, they just had, getting a better price for it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I checked a couple of years ago, I couldn't find any place in the area that was selling corn
yeah,
for
it's just
fuel.
well, if you have chickens like I do, and you try to buy a bag of chicken food, it's gone like doubled in the last couple of years, and so it's just a matter of, you know, when our bellies and our animals' bellies compete with the food. I mean, it doesn't make sense to burn food. You know, that's another thing. You're kind of trading one problem for another. So I think it makes more sense to burn something like. And then a lot of people that did buy corn burners are all burning pellets now. I guess they're multi-fuel units that they put in, and they can burn either. So you can mix them, I guess. Some people mix them both. If you're a farm, like up in the county, you got people that mix in all kinds of stuff. You know, there's people that grow oats and burn oats, and they'll mix them in with pellets just because the oats are cheap for them. So there's a lot of things that you can burn. And, but that's a good question as well.